Hey, Warwick.
Yes, Nicole, I can't imagine what you're about to ask me.
What did the fish say when he swam into a wall?
I don't know, Nicole. What did the fish say?
Oh, damn.
Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nick unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
Come on, listeners. Tell me that one didn't make you chuckle.
Oh, dear.
What do you call a fish with no eyes?
No.
A fish.
It's not technically correct, and I'm not going to bother proving how much of a wally I am by talking about eye versus eyes. So we're just going to talk about something else today, listeners. Something to do with being a tradie in business and learning to just go with the flow. How's that?
Go with the flow? This actually could be a very interesting topic. I don't think it's something that, well, even some of the conversations you and I have had this morning have been about how things change. We've had a lot of change here at Tradies in Business in the last couple of weeks, totally out of our control, that would ordinarily frustrate us no end. And so we've had to learn to embrace going with the flow.
There's a term from the psychology realm called radical acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of, I guess, working with anxiety and panic and those sorts of states of being where we actually create that elevated emotion and state of anxiousness because we choose not to, really, listeners. I mean, we say can't accept. I can't accept that. I just can't accept that that's how things are. When in fact we're choosing not to accept it. And so that creates that anxiety, and then that bleeds into all other areas of our lives. And so this concept of radical acceptance is I guess, in layman's terms, going with the flow. It's accepting that, well, this is the direction that the river of poo is flowing, so I'm just going to go with it instead of trying to swim against it. And in most cases, that can be quite futile.
We've been let down this last few weeks, last couple of months actually, let down. We alluded to some of it, I think, in an episode last week. Perhaps it was on the private podcast, the Tradiepreneur podcast. But we did allude to the fact we've been highly challenged in some areas and been very let down. I'm not alone in this. I actually have a couple of friends who are in the same situation with various other providers or contractors. And we have found ourselves, I guess, wanting to right the wrong and wanting to try and steer the ship, take back control of the ship. And it's taken a lot of control and a lot of coaching one another and backing one another to realise so much of this was out of our control. We actually had to let most of it go and focus on the key things that were non-negotiables rather than trying to pull the whole thing back into line. At the end of the day, for us, we very much embrace and understand that you can't tell someone they're an idiot. When they're an idiot, they're not going to believe you. They're not going to understand what you're saying. They're just going to fight against you. And so for us, we had to let go, I guess, of the ego in the situation. We've had to forget about how we feel and just work towards getting the result that we needed. And it's been really challenging to let that to go with the flow of the situation and understand that it's just going to take its own course and its own time, and there's nothing I can do that will positively impact that in this situation except to embrace that flow and work through to the other side. So we are almost at the other side. It is getting better. I am pleased we did it the way that we did it. I'm sure it will be a hangover for a long time. And there was nothing to be gained for us by speaking our mind.
No, you're right, Nick. And I feel like sometimes you talk about ego. and when I think about the people that we work with in our tradiepreneur community and just the conversations we have with many other trade business owners in our day-to-day lives here at Tradies in Business, one of the things that I believe creates this "I can't accept that," in inverted commas, or meaning that you choose not to accept things, is a need to be right or a need to assert our correctness because, well, this is the way that it should have been done and it wasn't done that way. So how can I possibly accept that? And unfortunately for you listening to this, and for us here at Tradies in Business, for Nick and I, there will be a never-ending procession of people who, again, quote unquote, let us down, disappoint us, do things that we didn't expect, do things wrong, deliver stuff that wasn't the way we wanted it. And the unfortunate thing that I see and that I've done in my own life as well is just wear ourselves out wanting things to be different instead of accepting the way they are, and then diverting that energy into, well, how do we make this work? How do we turn this into something that keeps us on track with our goals? Or how do we just come up with a creative solution? It may not look the way we wanted it to start with, literally, for the thing that we're talking about here at Tradies in Business. And if we accept the way it is now, can we make that work for us? And so often the answer is yes. And we see this with our trade business owner clients that we work with. It's almost always yes. You know, we had a fantastic roundtable session with our high-level tradiepreneurs yesterday afternoon. And some of the blockages, I guess, for those people in their businesses, to Nick and I, aren't actually blockages, they're opportunities. And that's the wanky business coach thing. It's like every challenge is an opportunity in disguise. Sometimes it's so disguised you can't even see it. And yet, because we sit outside of those people's businesses, yeah, sure, it's much easier for us to see the opportunity in those things. And it also only took 15, 20 minutes chatting with each member for them to be able to choose a different perspective on where they were at. Once they had a bit more understanding, once they stepped back and got some more clarity about, well, what's the big game here? What's the bigger picture? And I feel like sometimes we get so wrapped up in the minute, well, not the minute detail, but in the detail of, but that's not the way I wanted it done, that we lose sight of, well, could we still move in the general direction of our goals?
I think that we all forget on a day-to-day basis that we are in control of our destiny. And sometimes that control appears to be lost, and yet we still have the power of the control of our thoughts. And we can change the framework around any situation to be more aligned with where we need it to be. So let's think about what's been happening over the last few years, the word we don't talk about, the thing we don't talk about here in the podcast anymore. It has taken a lot of choice away from business owners. It's created some situations in which many of us are feeling very frustrated, so on and so forth. I won't go too far into that. And if we choose to reframe the way we think about it, if we choose to control the controllable, if we choose to realign where we're at towards some of those areas, suddenly we feel a whole lot better about it. We don't need to feel bogged down. There isn't ego involved. We're going more with the flow. We're not getting stuck, and we're not letting that stand in our way, that frustration, that anger and that fear get in our way of actually moving forward. And so I think as people that are smart enough to listen to this podcast, clearly looking for some self-improvement as well as business improvement, it's a great opportunity for us all to think about, well, how can we reframe some of those things in our life that are currently feeling disappointing, letting us down, or frustration, even those frustrating points in our lives? What can we reframe about that? It might be relationships with people that we care about. Perhaps with our team members, we're not having the relationships we would like to have. How can I reframe what that might actually look like so that we can all work closer to get to where we all feel more comfortable within that? Or perhaps your goal is to pay off the mortgage in the next 2 years and you've realised that actually right now that's not achievable. That doesn't mean that you failed at your goal. It doesn't mean that it needs to be frustrating or upsetting to you. What can happen is you can reframe what that goal looks like for now and focus on something that's a little bit more achievable, a little bit closer to help push you through to that next stage of paying off the mortgage in the next couple of years. And I think we forget that ultimately nothing exists unless we determine it to be. Huge concept. And one worth thinking about, one worth considering. How much frustration and stress are you carrying day to day because of stuff that you're creating for yourself that doesn't actually need to be there? Some mind shift changes can make a big difference to how you feel at the end of every day.
One of the most relevant books, perhaps, Nick, that I've read on this subject area is by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And a lot of it is, I mean, there's so many messages in his writings. A lot of it, let me try and say that again. I'll be present while I speak so that it works. Sorry, listeners. A lot of it is about being present and living in the now, obviously. I think that's the obvious message from those books. And yet beneath that, there's also that idea of accepting that things are, that it is how it is. And inherently wishing it was different or trying to somehow push back against that does nothing than just burn our own energy, create negative emotions and all of the impact that goes along with that on us personally and the people around us and our relationships. And then it starts to cloud our own decision making, and so we start to do things ourselves that create more and more stressful and anxiety provoking situations, and most of the time we don't realise it. No. And one of the big things in all of this is actually developing an awareness and an ability to self-reflect on where am I refusing to accept things. Now, I just want to make a point about acceptance. Acceptance does not equal condoning. No. It doesn't mean you agree with or that you support or promote things that you accept. It just means you're actually choosing to accept that it is the way that it is, and I'm going to find, as Nick said, something that I can control, which ultimately is your own thoughts about what happens next, how you respond versus react, which we've talked about here a lot on the podcast. And I guess, this is more mindset stuff, listeners, because the decisions you make, the thoughts that you have every day in your businesses are way more powerful than what some pillock politician decides we can or can't do this week or this month with workers and all sorts of stuff. So, yes, those things have an impact, but they're all external to what power you have. It's why that book is the title is so cool. It's the power of now. The power of living in the now is huge, and going with the flow takes strength and courage. It's not the weak path.
Absolutely. It's not easy. And I think you and I have an advantage. I'll speak for myself. Hopefully you do agree, though. And look out if you don't. I have an advantage to have you in my corner, and we can remind each other. We reflect on things. I feel very fortunate to have you to help me through some of those situations where I might get a bit stuck in my ego or the rightness of it. Likewise, in my romantic relationship with my husband, we have each other to bounce off and try and remind and bring back into the same space. Not all of us have that, though, in our communities, and so we have one. You can come and join us at Tradies. Come and join the Facebook group, though. It is a great space that I see some, really big challenges be brought to the table, and a group of wonderful, supportive tradie business owners jumping onto the back of those posts and encouraging you to reframe your thinking, to reset those boundaries, to take control of what you can. It isn't something that we have to do alone. It is something that we can actually share with others to help us shift that mindset so that we're not actually getting stuck in the moment, and like so many of us do, unfortunately. And so if you would like to be part of our community and you haven't yet joined us over on Facebook, please just jump over into the Facebook groups search function and search for Get Off the Tools by Tradies in Business. I think that's what it's called now.
That's right, Nicole.
But if you search Get Off the Tools, you will find us. Or even search Tradies in Business, go to our page, and there will be a link on there where you can click, come through and join the community and find that support to help you go with the flow. My dad has a saying, if it doesn't flow, let it go.
I immediately thought of the 15-year-old boy version of that.
I bet you
So
did.
while I leave you with that visual, listeners, I'm also going to make it easy, and we'll pop the link to join the Facebook group, the Get Off the Tools group, in the show notes for this episode. So it'll be in the description if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or Google Podcasts or whatever. We'll pop the link into the description for today's episode. And just have a think about, where are you refusing to accept? Where are you refusing to accept something? If you game, join the group and let us know in a comment or a post. And if not, hopefully that gives you enough self-reflection to go jump into the river of poo and just go with the flow.
Thanks for listening.
Hooroo.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.